Yamunatiravanachari Radhamadhava Kunjabihari Radhamadhava Kunjabihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Chayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa. Private Stare said to His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pravajakacharya. Stare said to His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lajikoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nita Gaur Premanandi. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thanks for coming for class. Thanks to all of our Zoomites for attending as well. Today we're reading from the Granth Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 16, text number 6. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yatha Vastuni Panyani. Emadini Tatastata. Aryantani Narvishvam Evam Jiva Yonishu Kartashu Yatavastuni Panyani Hemadini Tatastata Aryantanti Narvesh Evam Jiva Yonishu Kartashu Yatavastuni Panyani Hemadini Tatastata Paryanti Narveshevam Jivayoni Shukartashu. Do you want to repeat? Yatavastuni Panyani Hemadini Tatastataha Paryantanti Narveshevam Jivayoni Shukartashu. Anyone on Zoom?
Yatavastuni Panyani
Yatavastuni Pantyanti
Yamadini Tatastataha
Vani Tatastataha
Mayatanti Nareshvevam Evo Monishu Kartrishu
Jivayoni Shukartashu.
Yathavastuni panyani
Yatavastuni Panyani
emadini tatastata
Hemadini Tatastataha
varyatanti nareshvevam jiva yani shikartishu.
Jimayoni Shukantashu. Right. Synonyms. Yata, just as. Vastuni, commodities. Panyani, meant for trading. Hema adini, such as gold. Tata tataha, from here to there. Paryantanti, move about. Nareshu, among men. Evam, in this way. Jiva, the living entity. Yonishu, different species of life. Parturshu, and different material fathers. Yeah. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Just as gold and other commodities are continuously transferred from one place to another in due course of purchases and sale, so the living entity, as a result of his fruitive activity, wanders throughout the entire universe, being injected into various bodies in different species of life by one kind of father or another. It has already been explained that Ketu's son was his enemy in his past life, and now has appeared as his son just to give him more severe pain. Indeed, the untimely death of the son caused severe lamentation for his father. One may put forward the argument, if the king's son was his enemy, how could the king have so much affection for him? In answer, the example is given that when someone's wealth falls into the hands of his enemy, the money becomes the enemy's friend. Then the enemy can use it for his own purposes. Indeed, he can even use it to harm its previous owner. Therefore, the money belongs neither to one party nor the other. The money is always money, but in different situations it can be used as an enemy or a friend. As explained in the Bhagavad Gita, it is not by any father or mother that the living entity is given birth. The living entity is a completely separate identity from the so-called father and mother. By the laws of nature, the living entity is forced to enter the semen of the father and be injected into the womb of the mother. He is not in control of selecting what kind of father he will accept. Prakriti Kriyamanani. The laws of nature force him to go to different fathers and mothers, just like a consumer commodity that is purchased and sold. Therefore, the so-called relationship of the father and son is an arrangement of Prakriti or nature. It has no meaning, and therefore it is called illusion. The same living entity sometimes takes shelter of an animal father and mother, and sometimes a human father and mother. Sometimes he accepts a father and mother among the birds, and sometimes he accepts a demigod father and mother. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says, Brahmananda Bharate Kon Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Bhaya Bhakti Lata Bij. Harassed life after life by the laws of nature, the living entity wanders throughout the entire universe in different planets and different species of life. Somehow or other, if he is fortunate enough, he comes in touch with a devotee who reforms his entire life. Then the living entity goes back home, back to Godhead. Therefore it is said, Janmana Janme Sabhe Pita Mate Paya, Krishna Guru Nahi Mila Bhaje Hari E. In the transmigration of the soul through different bodies, everyone in every form of life, be it human, animal, tree, or demigod, gets a father and mother. This is not very difficult. The difficulty is to obtain a bona fide spiritual master and Krishna. Therefore, the duty of a human being is to capture the opportunity to come in touch with Krishna's representative, the bona fide spiritual master. Under the guidance of the spiritual master, the spiritual father, one can return home back to Godhead. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Mayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Translation once more. Just as gold and other commodities are continually transferred from one place to another in due course of purchase and sale. So the living entity, as a result of his fruitive activities, wanders throughout the entire universe, being injected into various bodies in different species of life by one kind of father after another. Hare Krishna. So this is very nice. I wanted to speak about a couple of points that are mentioned here. So Prabhupada very expertly always captures many different aspects into the purports of his books and to the translations. Like it's always packed with so much nectar. Even the very short ones are very like you can always examine them from different angles most of the time. So yeah, I was thinking to speak today about the rarity of the human form of life, the karmic package we get, coming in contact with Krishna, and how rare that is, and then obtaining a spiritual master and taking initiation. Just to highlight what Srila Prabhupada's mentioning here in the purport, how yeah, rare it is that we have the opportunity to be here in this human form and also associate with the devotees. So yeah, there's 8,400,000 different species of living entities, as you all know, and of those, only 400,000 are humans. And Srila Prabhupada says in one purport that amongst these like human species, most of them are like uncivilized living entities, not like high-ranking civilized humans. So yeah, the chances that we get to get a human form of life in a civilized human body where we can like question and understand things and yeah, live a more advanced style of living in a sense is quite rare. And as we know, there's the rest of those 8 million living entities are insects, birds, beasts, trees, plants, fishes, like very broad spectrum. Like even if you go through a walk in the forest here in summertime or springtime, you'll probably see at least like if you're looking for them, you could see at least like 50 different types of insects. Um, just alone. There's those, and there's insects that are very beautiful and like pretty, and there's insects that are very gross and yucky, and like especially when you see them in your room at night, gross. Um, I mean, it's just my perception. Of course, they're all jivas, and we've been stuck. Some of them have been stuck in that cycle, unable to get out. So yeah, we know the difference between the human form of life and the animal form of life. Um, heard this many times that the um, real difference, like I remember, this is actually quite nice if you ever have the opportunity to go on Sankirtan and you can start a conversation with someone and ask them like, oh, what's the difference between animals and humans? And they're like, oh, well, we walk on 2 feet. It's like, oh, some animals walk on 2 feet, like kangaroos also walk on 2 feet. Um, and sometimes bears walk on 2 feet, and there's other animals as well. They're like, oh, okay, well, oh, we dress like in a very sophisticated way, like we wear clothes and stuff. It's like, oh, well, sometimes you can see like bears wear t-shirts when they're like in the circus, or like, um, sometimes kids dress their pets up in clothes. So is that really the only distinction? And we say, oh, well, we speak, we have our language, we talk, we eat, we work. Like, oh, well, animals are doing this too. They have their own language they communicate with. Like, over by our apartment, we can hear the frogs communicating all night. And the birds are communicating in their own language, and they're working very hard. They actually work harder than most humans work. We just work 8-hour days, but animals are working 12-hour days, trying to defend their property. Like the squirrels, you'll see them jumping from the tree to tree, working very hard, trying to collect all sorts of things to stash. So then, what really is the difference um, between humans and animals? And people say, "Oh, well, we can fall in love, we can get married." It's like, well, animals are also mating; they just don't have to work so hard for it as we do. Uh, so yeah, the real like substance is that humans have the ability to question why am I here? Like, what's the purpose of my life? They have this atato brahma jigas. They can question it to the absolute truth, which animals can't do. They're conditioned in just their existence. They know. Except for some, obviously, some living entities that were previously in human bodies and have fallen into the animal species, but they were practicing some aspect of devotional service. Then these animals are different. Like we have our brahmachari Dudu, the peacock, who resides on the porch outside of the temple, and it's actually quite amazing. I was watching him the other day. He lingers around the different areas of the farms at specific times. So obviously he's here in the morning at Mangalarti, and then you'll see him around lunchtime hang around the deity kitchen because he knows that that's where the Rajboga is being transferred in and out of. So he'll just kind of like see him walking past Parijata and Dhruva's cabin, and then he'll just be outside the deity kitchen just waiting for you to open the door, hoping that he'll get some Maha sweet. And then around 6 p.m., you'll see him sometimes sprinting to the Welcome Center kitchen because he knows that's when the dishes are happening and that the devotees will feed him some compost prasad if he's there at the right time. And just another fact about Dudu that I've learned since being here, he has a specific diet. He only eats maha sweets and things that are deep fried. He won't eat grapes and fruits like that. So yes, there's some living entities that are in the animal form of life, but they are actually devotees, and um, they've made some mistake, and now they've come into this form. There's actually a very nice book that Jananda Maharaj has written, um, all about specifically about animals that have were devotees in their past life, and they're taken this form as their last birth, or hopefully to take their last birth in the animal species to come back. So yeah, anyways, but for the most people, most of the general animal populace, they don't have that ability to question, and they don't know. Uh, they're just living their day to day without any knowledge of anything higher. So the fact that we've somehow made it into this for 100,000 species of living entities that are humans, we're somehow in a class of living entities that are of a more civilized race, that we are more acceptable and understanding of things that are higher knowledge or in higher position to question. It's actually quite rare. And then, um, yeah, and then we have to understand we come into this world with our karma package, like our bags. And there's this really nice verse actually I wanted to read. It's Srimad Bhagavatam 5:11:6. I found it. It's really nice. Prabhupada describes quite nicely the situation. He says the materialistic mind covering the living entity's soul carries it to different species of life. This is called continual material existence. Due to the mind, the living entity suffers or enjoys the material distresses and happiness. Being thus illusioned, the mind further creates pious and impious activities and their karma, and thus the soul becomes conditioned. So yeah, I thought this was really nice. Like the way Prabhupada just describes exactly what's happening. Like the mind of the living entity is in suffering or it's enjoying, it's creating happinesses and distresses. And then because of this, we become illusioned. We think we're actually enjoying that this is actually a happiness experience or this is actually a distressful experience. And then the play on those is that we further and further become entangled in the material world. Um, and yeah, I was thinking about this. My brother, he's a musician, and he wrote this song a couple of years ago, many years ago actually. My grandma left her body, and there's these lyrics in that are always stuck into my head when I think about karma, because it's although he's not spiritually inclined, he's not a devotee, he doesn't know too much about what I'm doing as far as I know, but um, anyways, these lyrics are you're carrying heavy. He was writing this as though he's saying it to my grandma, but he said, you're carrying heavy bags with unmarked tags for all the world to see. And even though you've come and gone, you're still holding on, waiting for something to see. And it always comes to my mind when I think of karma because I'm like, oh wow, it's like totally karma, but he's anyways, doesn't get it in that way. But it's very true. Like we come into this world and we've got these like heavy bags that we're dragging around. Um, like, I'm not sure if you've ever been to the airport and you see somebody traveling and they've got these like super heavy big bags and they're trying to get them out of their car and they're like by four of them and they're trying to get the little like handle thing where you can push it and they're like dragging these bags and like looking, is anybody gonna help me? Is anybody gonna help me with these bags? And everyone's like, oh, don't look at me, don't make eye contact. And they're like pulling these bags and they like press them onto these things and then they're like struggling to push it. So this is like our life. We have these like heavy karmic bags that we're like pulling with us everywhere we go. And it can be like quite heavy and quite a burden. Um but they're hard to shake. They're hard to get rid of. Like we might be like, okay, I'll just, I'll put them in the um like you go on your plane, you're like, okay, I'll check my bags and then I don't have to deal with them for the whole flight, like off my hands. But then when you get to your destination, they're just there waiting for you. So yeah, it doesn't matter. Like we might think, okay, I'll leave, I'll go here, I'll go to this situation, I'll go somewhere different. But our conditioning, our karma, our problems, they follow us wherever we go, whatever body we take, we're there. Um, and it's like when, I don't know, in the material sort of sense of a world, someone might say like, "Oh, watch out, that girl, she's got a lot of baggage," or like that guy's got heaps of baggage. Like, careful, you don't want to get too involved with them because they might like open up their suitcase and throw it all on you. So, in that sense, it's like, yeah, at least that analogy kind of helps me understand. Like, yeah, I've got these bags you're carrying around. Um, and then the good thing is though that when we come in contact with Krishna and we start doing devotional service, and the load actually becomes lighter because our conditionings are getting purified and our karma is getting nullified and purified. So yeah, those bags actually become lighter, or sometimes they go away completely. Um, so yeah, this chance yeah, it's rare, and when we have the opportunity that we've made it through these 8,400,000 species of living entities, we've come to the human platform, or in a civilized form. We've got all this karmic baggage that we've carried for so many lifetimes. And then through all of that, we somehow managed to meet the devotees. It's quite rare. Like it's quite far out, actually, when you think about it. When I was thinking about this class, I was like, yeah, it is really rare. It's like a very far out situation. And yeah, we can all think about like maybe how we came in contact with the devotees, how we met them. Um, and it is like, oh, what are the chances that that would have happened? Like it's quite strange. I was thinking for myself when I met the devotees for the first time. I was 16 and I was in this like my hometown, Boulder, Colorado, with some friends. Um, we were 16 in Boulder, so there's nothing else to do besides smoke weed because that's what you do when you're 16. And especially in Boulder. So we were all pretty stoned and we were at this in this mall area and it started pouring rain and I had driven there with everybody in my car. I'd parked my car basically like across the town on the other side of the mall. And my friends were like, okay, we'll all run back to the car. Let's go this way. It's the fastest. And I was like really proud. I was like, no, you guys have no idea what the fastest way to get there is. I know the fastest way. It's this way. And they're like, whatever, you do your own thing. We'll meet you there. So I was running through the rain and then it was really raining. It was like pouring down rain. And there's this outdoor pavilion, like a stage that's covered. So I was running and I was like, oh man, I'm just gonna go into this stage till I get out of the rain. So I was running through the rain and turned the corner, went into the stage and like bumped right into a bunch of brahmacharis doing Harinam. And I was quite a hippie at the time. Um, so I remember like running into this like circle and they had set it up really nicely. There was a nice rug on the ground and they all had their instruments out and it was like very ecstatic. And so I just like ran in and they were like, come sit down. And I was like, okay. So I sat down and, they gave me a little mantra card, it's chanting. And I was like, this is so nice. Like these people are so cool. And then I was there for not very long, maybe. I mean, I don't know the time, couple of minutes, and then my phone started buzzing and buzzing. So I picked it up. My friends were like, "Where are you? We're at your car. You have the keys." And I was like, "You guys gotta come here and check this out. I just bumped into these guys. They're all wearing orange. They're chanting these mantras. Like, it's so cool. You guys have to come check this out." And they're like, "Oh, of course this would happen to you. Like, we're not surprised in the least. But like, you have to come. We're freezing. It's wet. Like, you have the keys. Like, hurry. We're not gonna wait for you forever." And I was like, "No, guys, seriously, this is so cool." But anyways, I was persuaded to leave, so I ran back out into the rain of Maya until I came across the devotees when I was 19 later in New Zealand. But yeah, I mean, now when I think about it, I'm like, that's so like totally Krishna's arrangement. But at the time, I wasn't ready to take up bhakti. I was still like really into material enjoyment, and I needed to exhaust myself to the point of burnout before I was ready to reach out to Krishna in a more sincere way. But I can see Krishna's just giving me a taste, like, okay, like start you off. And then I was very fortunate in a very appreciative mood of the devotees and just thought they were like the coolest people ever. Um, and yeah, I didn't even know what the devotees were. I had no idea about Hare Krishna. When I even met the devotees in Wellington, I was like, when can I meet Srila Prabhupada? Like, I want to meet Srila Prabhupada. And they're like, oh, he's not alive anymore. Like, he physically left the world. And I was like, what? So yeah, was totally ignorant of the whole thing, um, completely. But I can see like this is such a rare chance. Like this living entity totally wasting the existence, the material form, and then just gets an opportunity to come in contact with Krishna. It's quite strange. And of course, there's so many like much um, more exotic stories. Like one devotee I was living with in Wellington, she was working at a like a retail store, and people would leave things there all the time, like lost and found property. So someone had gotten a book from a devotee on the street, came into the store, left it on the counter, and then left. So they kept the book in like their lost and found for a month, and then after a month, they start giving away the things to the staff members. So this girl, Veera Gopi, when she saw this book, she was like, "Oh, I want that book." But she had to wait for a month until no one had come back to claim it. So after a month, they're like, "Okay, who wants this book?" And she's like, "Oh, I'd like that." And then she just read it like cover to cover. And then she met a devotee on the street and they brought her to Bhakti Lounge. And then she just kept reading. She read the book like 3 times. It was so nice, actually. It was so attractive to see. And then she became a devotee. Now she's a really empowered Sankirtan devotee. So yeah, there's so many examples of that that are like, when you look at it, you're like, what are the chances that that would happen, to somebody that Krishna would just come into their life like that? It's very like, seems very rare in that way. Or like stories. There's like Shesha Prabhu has so many nice stories of people like, finding Bhagavad Gitas in the rubbish or like being in the middle of the woods and they go to like some small cabin and there's a Bhagavad Gita like waiting for you and you read it and it changes your life. Um, so yeah, I'm sure, all the devotees on Zoom are so much more senior to me, have many examples of that. But yeah, it's really nice to think like, um, yeah, that this opportunity, which is it is actually very rare, and the world's not yet at the point when it's flooded with devotees. There's still a very small percentage of devotees in the world in comparison to people who are not practicing Krishna consciousness. Um, so yeah, it is actually quite a rare opportunity, which is nice to remember because sometimes it can seem like, oh, I just do this every day and I wake up and I chant and I do this and I see these prabhus every day and it can seem kind of mundane after a while, but to remember, actually, this is a very rare opportunity that I have. And then um, we can, this opportunity is rare, but it's also very powerful. Actually, the Prabhupada gives that analogy of like the duck that's in the ocean and it's swimming and it just pokes its head up for a second and just happens to poke its head up through a hole in a piece of driftwood. It's like the rarity of a person coming in contact with Krishna or the association of devotees. So yeah, it's very powerful. And then the thing that I also want to mention is when you have this rare opportunity and then somebody who's practicing this lifestyle decides to leave, it's like the most heartbreaking thing. It's the worst part of bhakti when somebody decides to leave because this is the best thing you're going to get. Like there's nothing else there that's worth trying. They've forgotten. Maya has allowed them to forget, covered them over to the point when it seems like, no, actually, I will get some enjoyment. There is something for me to taste out there in the wide world. My spiritual master calls it that they need a refresher course in Maya. Like you go to get a refresher course in some studies, you remind yourself, oh yeah, that's what it's about. So some people they need their refresher course in material energy. So yeah, it's very heartbreaking when that happens. And I've heard it described many times by different devotees that when people leave the association of devotees to go back to pursue their material aspirations and dreams without taking Krishna with them in that endeavor, then actually they just wind up doing exactly what they were doing before they met the devotees. Um, which, yeah, at least for myself, I can think that's very scary. Before I met the devotees, I was not in a good place or a good association. So, the idea of falling back into that same cycle is can be quite a frightening thing. And and yeah, so we want to make sure that we don't, yeah, we encourage devotees to stay so they don't slide into that. And yeah, so yeah, it's a very rare opportunity, as all of us know from our different experiences of like coming to Krishna consciousness and from what people have heard. And then yeah, we want to make sure we can do whatever is in our power to make sure that people feel encouraged to not leave the association of devotees. So then, okay, this is our cycle. We've got our 8 million species, we've come through those, we've made it to the human form of life. We're in an intelligent human form where we can question things. We've come in contact with the devotees. That's forgot. And now, what's next? So the next, even more rare thing is to take initiation from a spiritual master. Because there's lots of people who hang around the association of devotees for many years, and they're like real good mates of Krishna, like real good friends. They contribute to the project, they do a lot, but they never really take that like next step in their spiritual practice to really become, mm, yeah, become certified as a devotee, I guess. Um, so that step is really important. Srila Prabhupada's saying here in the last sentences of the purport how important it is to actually take initiation from a spiritual master, um, and take that next step, which is an important factor. And at least I can remember for myself when I first met the devotees, when I first moved into the ashram and started taking my Krishna consciousness more seriously, it was quite a mental platform thing because um, no one had really instructed me that we can take shelter of Srila Prabhupada as our spiritual master. And that's we should first develop a relationship with Srila Prabhupada before we accept a spiritual master because he's the original Jagat Guru. So I was quite mental. I was like, oh, everyone's got a spiritual master. A couple of my friends that I just moved in with, they were like talking about how they just taken um, asked for shelter from the spiritual master. And I was like totally bewildered on what to do. I was on the mental platform like anything. I was researching, oh, Radhanaswami, Indradumi Maharaj, this person, that person. And of course, I had no idea about any of this stuff because I was fresh out of the material world. Um, but yeah, so the first principle is to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. And establishing the relationship with Srila Prabhupada comes through reading his books. That's how we can actually develop a relationship with him. Even he says that if you want to remember me, you can read my books. I'm always there. And then taking that next step to take shelter of a spiritual master is also very important. Um, my spiritual master gives the example of like, um, it's like if you're going to university and you can go to university and you can just attend the classes for free, like, and you get the same education. You can go, you can learn a lot. You can, um, yeah, attend the classes free, and it's a lot easier in one sense because you're just going for free. You don't have to pay the tuition. You don't have to like be obligated to go. You can miss a day, and no one's going to really mind or notice that you're gone. But you get a lot more credit if you actually enroll in the classes. And if you enroll in the classes, then yeah, you're getting the credit of going to the courses. You graduate, you get the degree that says, yes, I graduated from this school with a master's in biology or chemistry or psychology. people recognize, oh yeah, you're actually like qualified. Okay, I'd like to hear from you about your subject because I know you studied in it and you're bona fide in regard in that subject. Let alone to, um, yeah, just if you go somewhere like, oh yeah, I didn't actually graduate, but I went to all the classes. People be like, oh, that's interesting, but they might not really have that depth and appreciation or faith that you are really know what you're talking about, which of course is a little mundane in a sense. There's many things you can do nowadays without a college degree, but just for the sake of the analogy. So, yeah, the way that this nice devotee at the time, she was very helpful for me. She was, when I was telling her, oh, I'm so mental, I don't know how to choose a spiritual master, what should I do? She gave me this really nice analogy that Srila Prabhupada is like this giant fire, this huge flame, and he's got these disciples that are like flames of that flame. They have the same fire, they have the same, they're coming from the same line, so they're like flames, and they're spread out all throughout the world, these flames of Srila Prabhupada. And if there's one flame comes in contact with us very often, we have the chance of like coming quite, this flame is prominent in our lives in one direction, then it naturally makes sense that we should take shelter of that flame instead of maybe hoping maybe this flame or that flame or this flame will be the right flame for me. Um, so this was the advice that helped me a lot when I was like mentaling out about this whole situation. And of course, there's lots of examples of very elevated devotees who are um, they are born in this world, they meet the devotees, and then they very quickly just have like this clicking moment with some spiritual master. Oh, I know you from a past life. Um, and they an opportunity to like meet again and then take shelter in that way. Um, I remember Vrajaleela Mataji when she was telling me about how she had met her spiritual master, Bhakti Tirtha Swami, that it was like she had looked at him and she's like, "Oh, I know you," and he's like, "Yeah, I've been waiting for you. Like, let's go. We got things to do." So sometimes it's like that, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes the conditioned living entity just needs to take shelter so that we can get guidance and make that advancement so that we can make that connection with Krishna. Um, so yeah, I remember when I asked my spiritual master for shelter, it was um, I wasn't actually intending to do it at the time. I was just asking some questions and I couldn't phrase it properly. And then I was asking about the spiritual master and how to take shelter. And he just said, "Well, the shelter's been there for you since the very beginning." And I was like, "Oh, so can I take shelter from you?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course. I've always been here." Um, so yeah, anyways, I just wanted to mention that point that sometimes it might take a bit of humility on our side if we're expecting that we're going to have a moment where we like lock eyes with this, sannyasi and remember our past life and then take shelter that maybe that might not happen. And we might just need to be practical in what's available for us at the time. And then later that relationship develops and then it becomes clear, yeah, this was the only person that could have been perfect for me. Um, so yes, we've talked about today, I'll just wrap it up because we're getting close to the end of our time, that the rarity of the human form of life, all the different species of animal bodies that we can get, it's actually very easy too in the human form of life to degrade ourselves back down again to the animal species. It's just a source of, yeah, our mind and how much we are affected by the different modes of material nature. Of course, for those who are very in the mode of ignorance, it can be very hard to come out of that and yeah, transcend that mode and come into a consciousness where you can actually think of Krishna and think of things that are beyond, yeah, what the mode of ignorance conditions you to be. I remember also when I first came, my mentor, she told me, "You're so in the mode of ignorance that if you don't do something about it soon, you'll drown." And it was quite like, she was amazing at these like one-liners that just like penetrated your heart and like, you're like, man, that was rough. Okay, I gotta work on myself. So yeah, I remember for myself, I was very in the mode of ignorance. Very, yeah, very like deep in the mode of ignorance, and she was just very expert at penetrating that. But yeah, the mode of ignorance is very dangerous. You can just slide right back into the animal form of life, and that's your happiness and bliss, which seems ridiculous, but it's, yeah, it happens. Um, And then the karmic package we have. So we have all this karma that we're carrying for many lives. And when we come in contact with Krishna, when we take initiation, that karma actually becomes like those bags disappear. Krishna, the spiritual master, takes on those heavy bags of our karma. But due to their spiritual purity, for them, it's basically feels like a feather. But they can get the reactions of our karma. So that's also why it's taking initiation from a bona fide spiritual master who's in line with Srila Prabhupada is so important. And then Krishna, because we've taken that commitment, he actually nullifies. Actually, the moment I've heard we come in contact with Krishna consciousness, Krishna starts to nullify our karmic reactions. Like you might deserve to lose your finger or cut off get your arm amputated, but instead you just get a cut on your finger. So yeah, this is very important. And then we come in contact with Krishna. The next step we need to take is obtaining a spiritual master so we can further progress ourselves in the movement. It's very easy to become like sort of in the hang out in that zone of just being a friend of Krishna for a very long time. We want to be progressive in our bhakti and go for the next step and then always be moving forward, never becoming stagnant um, in that service. So yeah, I guess I can just finish there. I don't have anything else to say. I wanted to read from some verses, but I forgot to bring them up in Bhagavad Gita. But yeah, do you guys have any questions? Yes, Nitai Chand. Nitai Chand, we're here for you. Can you speak loudly or should I give you the mic?
Whatever, I'm not gonna make any comments. Like, we can blame it on Dr. Phil. That's probably his ecstasy inspiring you. That was a really incredible verse to give class on, and you did a really incredible job presenting it. So thank you very much. You did great. Can you tell me what the verse number is?
Yes, it was 6:16:6.
6:16:6.
A lot of sixes in there. Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Phil, for coming and inspiring our lecturers to give such fabulous class at the dance period. We need more Dr. Phil. Great job.
The
book that your friend read and that made her into the hobby, the retelling.
Bhagavad Gita.
I like that point back. It's like, you ever see that show Hoarders?
Hoarders, I do. Can you speak in here so everyone can hear? Cool. There you go. Yeah.
I felt that show of people, it's like their lives, they're destroying all the useless stuff that they collect,
Yeah.
but they can't let go of it. It's almost like the heart breaks trying to get rid of things that are holding you back. And karma's like that, but invisible.
Yeah.
My identity. Oh, they disrespected me because of my color. People get so angry and they lose jobs over it. And they get into fights and lose marriages. And it's like, hey, this isn't even.
Yeah, crazy thing.
Appreciate the clap.
Thanks. Yeah, that show Hoarders is like a really good example. People get so attached to like these like random things. They just like can't let go. It's like, yeah, it's very frightening. Yeah, it's really good. Thanks. Any questions on this one? No, maybe I can read a verse from Bhagavad Gita that's quite good. I lost it. Mambaisha Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatanaha, Manasha Stranding Indriyani, Prakriti Stani Karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are eternal fragments. When you take it in life, they're structured very up with 6 sentence, which include the mind. And here there's some points that I wanted to share. Quite cool. So By misuse of that independence, one becomes a conditioned soul. By proper use of independence, is always liberated. So Shraddha was talking here about the independence of the living entity, how we have like Krishna gives us this little independence. You can choose what you want to do. You can choose me or you can choose Maya, but you have a little choice. Really not independent of anything else. We have that one dependence. And then he says, living entity, he is bound up by the false ego, and the mind is the chief agent, which is driving him into existence. So, yeah, I have like little pictures for these points that I draw, and this one always reminds me of like you're being held hostage in the back of a car. Someone's like the mind is like the agent, and he's driving. He's got all these guns in the front seat. He's like, "You're not going anywhere. Like you're in the back of my car. I'm driving you wherever I want you to go." So it's just like, yeah, you're like held captive by the mind. And we don't have our intelligence fortified. I would just like, hold on, I'm going to record jump out, or like, I'm just going to do my own thing and not let you drive the car. Then we're actually able to make some change in our life. And then the last one here that I liked was the fragmental portion, when liberated from the bodily entanglement, revives its original spiritual body in the spiritual world, or sorry, revives its original spiritual body in the spiritual sky, in the spiritual planet, and enjoys the sensation of supreme Lord. We are liberated from our bodily entanglement. We get to enjoy in the spiritual sky, spiritual planet. Krishna. Okay, so can stop there. Anything from anyone else online?
That's a very inspiring analogy. I heard most of what you said about that, and makes you think that the guns must be illusionary because I don't know, it's just very inspiring to kind of fight against the mind because these guns must be illusions.
We've read it a million times. I think there's a lot of that. I find analogies that are helpful for understanding. So, okay. Kantraj and Bhagavatam ki, Jai Vaishnav Vrinda ki, Jai Thakur Premanande.